Welcome to the show, guys. Hey there, business owners, directors, and marketeers. In today's show, I'm speaking with Dustin Tysick from Jostle. I'm Lucas, your host as always, and I want to tell you just a little bit about Jostle before we jump right into the interview. So Dustin actually is calls himself a converted sales guy who now is a VP of marketing and growth at Jostle, and we'll learn all about that in this interview today. And Jostle, you could say, in a sentence, is basically the only intranet that is built to make your working life simple by removing complexity. And we want to obviously learn what that means and who is really using that and who's benefiting from this. So Dustin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Very cool. So tell us about Jostle a little bit. What is it all about?
Sure. Yeah. So Jostle, as you said, we're an internet platform, and internet's kind of this old space where most people have had one. Most people probably didn't like it. It's kind of that type of industry we're in, and we want to change that. So what we do different is we realize like work is overwhelming. I'm sure you feel that as well. There's always new people, new notifications, new files, new things to do. So that should be easy, right? Like you shouldn't have to search and hunt around for that. And we want to solve that by bringing all those things together in one really convenient, easy to use place, so that it's nice and simple and that you can just go about getting your work done rather than waste your time searching for things.
Got you. So am I imagining like a wiki meeting, super good functionality to find information? Can you give us a little bit more of an insight? What does it feel like to use it?
For sure. Yeah. So it brings together some of the main components that you would usually do. So normally with a company, they'd send out an email newsletter and maybe you'd have one-to-one chats on Slack and then you'd go to Google Drive to look for your files. We have all those components in one. So you can do your instant messaging, your file, your search, your people wall, your org chart, everything is all in one place, all searchable and all interconnected.
Gotcha.
So it's for those companies who just want one platform to be the go-to place that's nice and simple for their employees.
Makes a lot of sense. And what types of businesses would be sort of benefiting the most from this? Who's using Jostle? What types of, size or industry?
For sure. So that's one of the things I really like about working here is it's all over the place. So smallest customer is 15 employees. Our largest is over 10,000. And you name an industry or country, we probably have a customer there. The sweet spot really, though, and where we see a ton of success is companies that have either multiple locations or remote workers. It can be tough, like if you have 5 offices, to tie everyone together, have the same company culture amongst all those offices, share best practices, and we really help with that. So I'd say we have a ton of success in that space, but our customers is really a diverse set, which is great.
Okay, very, very cool. And what would be sort of just a range of pricing? We spoke about that a little bit before the call. Maybe you can give listeners an idea about how does Jostle being priced.
For sure. So we have a couple different tiers depending on the functionality you need. But in general, it's a per user pricing. So at the smaller end, if you're a 20-person company, it's about $10 per user per month, all in for the complete full package. And that'll scale down as you get larger. So if you're 500 people, it's more like $7. If you're in the thousands of people, it'll be less than that. So as your company grows, which we hopefully help you with, the per user cost kind of scales down with you to make it more affordable.
Okay, very good. I think that gives a really good understanding for anybody who is interested. Okay, so you working in growth and marketing there. I'm very curious because you mentioned that you really like that there is this diversity of clients from 15 people, companies up to several thousands of employees. How would a client typically find Jostle? What is the typical user journey like, if there is such a thing as a typical user journey?
Yeah, so that's one of the interesting things that is challenging, but kind of the fun of it, right? If I sold sales software to VP of sales, I know my audience and it's kind of this contained bucket. We don't really have that luxury. Our buyer could be a CEO, an HR person, you name it, a marketing person. So because of that, we kind of have to put this wide net out there to try to catch them all. So a lot of our customers do come in either through paid search or organic search. Those are still the two core main drivers. One growing channel for us has actually been converting our blog visitors and blog users into legitimate leads and customers. That's always tough, right? Like it's top of the funnel. How do you then bring them down? How do you filter them down with realizing not everyone's going to be a customer, and that's okay. So that's kind of where we're at. We're casting this really wide net. And up until this point, we've been almost entirely inbound. And now we're going to explore outbound a bit more using some ABM campaigns and that sort of thing.
Very interesting. So how would you think about personas then? I think this is, I think you're in a
Yeah.
very interesting spot there where you mentioned a marketeer, a CEO, even somebody from HR. Like, how do you try to, steer the marketing team then on based on which types of personas, or how do you even think about that? Maybe you can give a glimpse into that.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been in business and selling for about 10 years. So over that time, we finally got an understanding of our buyers a little bit. It takes that time because it's so diverse. So in general, we know based on the size of the company who the most likely buyer is. That being said, it's never a sole person buying. Like take my role, for example, I could go buy a new marketing automation software and implement it, and maybe I bring in one or two people. We're always selling to a committee. So we will always kind of target and try to bring in people from HR, marketing communications, and some type of senior leadership. And then depending on the size of the company, potentially there's also an internal communications department that we'll bring in as well. So who we target and go after is really based on the company and how built out those functions are. And persona-wise, ultimately what we're looking for and digging for, and it's hard to find, is the engagement champion. So the person who cares the most about company culture, productivity, engagement. If we find that person, we can sell really, really well. It's just we have to find who that is.
Very, very interesting challenge. Very cool. So you mentioned a lot of inbound is coming to Jostle. So what would be the role of the website? Is that could you describe the role of the website in the overall sort of setup for Jostle?
Yeah, for sure. So in general, we want to funnel people and filter them to our main site, either from the blog, from social, from organic search, anywhere we can find them. And what we our kind of mantra there is we want to enlighten the visitor. So we want to educate them and also kind of open their eyes as to your old internet doesn't have to be this way. There's other things out there. We take a different approach. Once, like in the sales cycle, when we can make that click and make them realize, like, oh, you guys don't have pages. Oh, you filter things differently. That light bulb kind of goes off. Yep. It's easier in a sales conversation. On a website, that's tough. So that's kind of been our ongoing challenge, and we're continuing to kind of build out the website to help with that journey.
Very cool. And you mentioned we were speaking about the website here. So what metrics? I'm curious because everybody I speak to somebody in this interview, a different set of metrics turns out to be key. Very often it's conversion, obviously, but what's the metrics that you care about from your perspective in your role on the website?
Yeah, so on the paid search side, like the pure landing page form fill side, it really is conversions, like you said, which I think is pretty common. The other thing we do look at, and I think is important, is the number of pages they actually visit in a journey and what those pages are. So we bucket the people who visit our homepage, product page, pricing page. That's the ultimate journey, right? Like they go to our product page, watch a video, read, check out our pricing. That's the ideal path that we want people to take. So we do look into how many are actually doing that. How can we make that easier? Is that growing? Are we losing them along the way? That sort of thing.
Very, very interesting. We were even checking out your website before the interview, and something that stood out to me was, especially because that conversation has been a lot in recent interviews, particularly that there is a demo button and then there's a trial button, right?
Yeah.
So which is two different journeys. I think you guys have a very interesting solution around that with a demo button leading to a place where I can then choose either or. Can you give us a bit of context? Like, is that a challenge you consciously working on, or how would you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So up until about 8 months ago, it was purely demo. That was the only ask. We had a trial that was kind of hidden. Like if you chatted to us, we'd set you up in it. But we were a little hesitant to put it live. That being said, nowadays people want to try with software. They want to play with it. And a demo is a big ask. It's like half an hour out of your day to sit and listen to someone talk to you and have that conversation. And then we considered, do we really want 3 buttons? Because on our homepage, we have a login button as well. So that would lead to a little bit of choice paralysis and people saying, I don't know what the hell to do. I'm leaving. I'm out. So we decided to bucket the demo and trial. The reason for that is we wanted those 2 words visible in an easy way on the page. And I think they are because they're highlighted in their own space so that people know, okay, I have options. And then when they get there, they can toggle between the 2 and choose which one they go with. We ran the metrics and long-term from lead to customer, they perform almost identical. So we don't have a direct preference. It's kind of whatever the user prefers and whatever works for them.
Very interesting, because very often in this conversation it comes up that there is sort of a bucketing, right? Like a certain size of customer, you would go down the demo route, while you might be pre-qualifying and send somebody the trial route. So is that what you're doing as well, or it sounds like both routes seem very promising for you guys?
Yeah, both routes are totally open. We find people have actually kind of been bucketing themselves based on size. So most people who do the trial are maybe under 200 people, under 100 people. When you get into this is a 3,000 person company, a 10,000 person company, they usually want a demo. They usually have a more formal process. So we find they're kind of doing that on their own, really. And the most successful path, which some take, is they fill out the demo request, they fill out the trial, they play with the trial, and then do the demo. They're really successful. Like, that's ideal world. That's what we want everyone to do.
Got you. So from a trial moving to demo. Very interesting. Thanks a lot for sharing these insights. I think that's very helpful for guys listening.
Sure.
And maybe the last follow-up question on this is, if you have any war story to share, like maybe something similar to what you just mentioned, where you were able to increase those conversions, from a website visitor to a trial or the demo, maybe something that you learned, maybe that was even surprising, how you were able to increase those numbers.
Yeah, I think one thing we did this year, it's definitely not like a mind-blowing thing, and it seems pretty straightforward, but it worked very, very well for us, is I think everyone experiences this, where someone fills out a demo form and then they disappear and they don't book a demo. And it's super annoying because they obviously have intent. So what's the holdup there? And we shortened our email response time. It was down to a couple minutes, but still people weren't booking. So what we actually did is when you fill out the demo form, we route you to a landing page with a calendar, and it's a shared calendar that's round robin with our sales reps, and people can book right away and grab time right away. It used to be we were like 50-ish% of people who requested a demo actually booked one. We were able to bump that up to about 75, which is a huge win for us, and a giant gain there with one simple just embed a calendar that goes round robin. So yeah, that was an easy one for us that I thought it would work. I didn't think it would work that well.
Very, very good. Very cool. And maybe last question on the website before we moving into sort of a little bit learning about you as a professional. I would be curious, is there some programs or some projects that you are excited about to tackle next on the website? Sort of what are the next big things that you sort of is something that you're excited about working on?
Yeah, I think one thing I'm excited about, and we're in the process of working on it, is building out our video strategy a bit more. So we do have the product tour, which gives a 2-minute snapshot of what we do, but we're a relatively complex platform. It's not like we're just an email automation platform that focuses on email. We're spread pretty wide. So because of that, we're working on building out a video journey that takes you through kind of each main feature and view in an interesting way, using people here. So talking head style, me telling you the value of what this thing is, and then into kind of a quick walkthrough, so that those people who learn that way and prefer to learn that way have that option.
Very good. Are you thinking about building this custom, or you already got some tools in place that you can recommend to people?
We're using Vidyard for most of it. They have a really nice API as well, where you can tie it to button clicks and it'll open the player and does some nice things, and you can add CTAs at the end as well. So yeah, we have that mostly built out, but I think that's definitely going to help people on our website.
Very, very cool. Nice. Yeah. So I would like to switch gears a little bit and learn a little bit about you and your journey. Sure. What I found very interesting is that you mentioned that you sort of came from a sales background and moved into the growth marketing arena. So what made you switch? What excited you so much about going into the marketing arena, and what tips can you give for somebody on that journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I was in sales for about 6 years. So started out as a sales rep, actually going door to door at university selling books to professors, which was kind of a throw yourself into the fire approach. It's not the most fun thing to do. And then I moved on and ended up managing a team that sold educational technology. I really liked it, but I found myself taking more of a marketing approach. So this was back in 2010-ish. And I was doing mail merges through Outlook and kind of trying to build automated sequences and that sort of stuff when people weren't really doing that yet much, especially in sales. So it made me realize I prefer kind of this mass communication challenge, and I wanted to go into marketing. So what I did then is 2 things. First, I needed to learn the theory, and I needed to understand kind of the background of marketing, the 4Ps, all that kind of classic stuff, right? So I went back and did my MBA, my master's in business with a focus on marketing. And I realized before I signed up for that it's not going to teach me the practical knowledge I need. So I actually launched my own little kind of mini e-commerce site where I could test out some cheap social ads, how to build an Instagram audience, how to convert, how to fill orders and ship them, how to source demand, all that sort of stuff. And did that while doing my MBA to kind of learn both sides of it.
Very, very cool, very inspiring. Where do you go for learning then? Like, what is sort of resources or maybe places where you go? Favorite blog, one thing that you would recommend that helped you the most in learning in that area?
For sure. So I learned mostly through podcasts because I have a really long commute. I go like an hour and 20 minutes each way. So it's either through books or podcasts is how I'm learning now. There's a few that I like from the marketing side of things. So I like the Inbound Success podcast. I think that's a really good one. I enjoy that. And then lately, actually, what I've been focusing on is back into sales and kind of learning as much as I can on sales. So two resources I would recommend there that I've gotten a ton from and we've implemented a lot from are Josh Braun, who posts a lot on LinkedIn, has a great course to check out, and actually the book by Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Yep. Those two have kind of definitely changed how we're working on email, how we're communicating. They were pretty eye-opening for me.
Very, very cool. Thanks for sharing. So the last question before we wrapping it up today would be, if you would be stepping back first day in the Jostle office when you joined, what would be one advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, wow. That was a while ago. So I think what I would do is think long-term more right from the start. So it can be a challenge to kind of just chase your own tail and generate leads. And things like paid ads are great for that, right? And you can optimize them, but they're never going to be this evergreen channel that continually brings things in. So if I could go back, I'd actually focus more on nailing our messaging, building our brand, building a community online, because that's where things are going now. Like paid ads, organic search are getting harder and harder. Customers are getting more expensive. So how you win is having a community that actually cares about you. And that's something we're focusing on, but yeah, if I had a time machine and could go back, I would totally tell myself to do that earlier and get ahead of the game.
Very, very cool. So Dustin, I really appreciate you the time today to share about your product, how you're thinking about growth, and then your personal journey into your position today. So thanks for being part of Customer Show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
All right, take care.